American Horror Story is one of my favorite shows. Not the reality show, but but the show by Ryan Murphy. And we have one of the big stars here today, and she doesn't play the role of Salt, she plays the role of Pepper. And it's Naomi Grossman. Naomi Grossman.
Yay!
Oh my God. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hanging in.
Yeah, me too. That's probably been used before, the salt and pepper thing, hasn't it?
No. Believe it or not. I've never gotten that.
I know it's sticky, but I felt being a little sticky. L'chaim?
Well, yeah, apparently.
Ginger ale.
Sure.
So, listen, I want to first tell you thank you for all that you do for Meet the Biz and Performing Arts Studio West. You have been so supported and loving throughout the years, and you are seriously a part of our family. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. No, I mean, everybody loves when you come into the room. It's like, oh, it's Naomi's here.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And now you have created a character that is now truly in the history books as one of the most memorable characters in TV history, Pepper. How did you get that role?
Well, it was a audition like any other. My agent called and said, you've got to audition tomorrow. The breakdown, as folks know, of course, that goes out to all the agents and managers in Hollywood, was simply a 4 to 5 feet tall, possibly malformed, childlike actress, which of course is sort of me. I'm a whopping 5 feet tall, so I barely slipped in. I am an actress. I can play childlike, and I'm not malformed, but at the same time I got the audition. So you got to figure, like, it's not my job to cast, right? Like, right. If that were a deal breaker, then I wouldn't have gotten the audition to begin with. So, you just go in and you do what you can do with what you've got, and don't worry about what you don't. The audition itself consisted of a monologue of Jessica Lange's from season 1, as well as an improv, in which they gave me a ball and asked me to try to get them to play with me. Of course, none of this made any sense to me at the time, especially because there was no mention of what Pepper was. Like, there was no, pinhead or microcephalic or, any of those sort of like buzzwords that would give me any kind of indication of what exactly they were looking for. Right. All I had was childlike. That was as much as I got. So when they gave me the ball, they said, try, play it as if you were a 4-year-old trying to get us to play with you. And then for the monologue, that they wanted pretty straight. That was, and at the time I thought, what in the world is this? Yeah. It wasn't until obviously when I was on, like, when I was actually in it, doing it, I realized, they just want an actress with range. They need someone like an extreme character actress with some improv background who can play, do the physicality of these, the dichotomy of the what Pepper ended up being, which was, the early sort of simpleton Pepper, and then of course the alien abducted Dr. Pepper. So, I but I didn't know that going in. All I had was the very limited information that they provided me with. But that was as much as anybody had.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the good news, is that it's this leveling of the playing field. We all come in with the same, limited information, and you do with it what you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the initial audition. The callback was basically a meeting with makeup. They had me, and as well as several other actresses that they initially had in mind, that they knew could handle the demands of the role. They had us come in, and they actually shot a bunch of photos of us, profiles, and then later manipulated those images to see what we would look like with the makeup.
Wow.
And
with the hair and everything, head and
yeah, so they actually instructed me to pull back your hair. I had longer hair at the time. Pull back my hair in like a little ponytail, and they actually suggested that I sort of slouch. Again, I had no idea what they were going for, but since then, of course, I've seen photos of it, and I can see the original Naomi, and then the side by side with what they ended up manipulating my image to look like. And it's something I like to remind myself of, because as actors, we tend to be vain, and I don't, my bridge of my nose. For all we know, my bridge of my nose got me this part that ultimately changed my life. I don't know. I just know that, Ryan Murphy and the decision makers around there took a look at these, couple actresses and thought that, my profile looked best.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as like the right nose. You know what I mean? Like, you can look at Desperate Housewives or whatever and say, I like her nose, but for all you know, like, your nose might be the right nose after all. I don't know.
I have to say, the nose is one of my favorite part of the body. I love noses, so, and you have a beautiful nose.
Did this conversation just take a strange segue?
Yeah, listen,
I'm trying to decide, like, how I feel about that. Is David into noses?
Noses. No, I mean, you brought up your nose.
I will say, during these COVID times, apparently the governor of Colorado, which is my home state, posted on his website that when you wear your mask like this, it's like wearing your underwear like below the what.
I saw that.
Pretty hilarious. Whenever I see someone out in public with their nose out, all I can think of them is with their pants, with their boxer shorts below their what.
Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't know that was the governor who posted that.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I love him. Who is this guy? He needs to be by me.
Talk about the aliens. I think they're here already, and then hopefully they'll save us. Oh my God.
I agree. Yes.
Jeez. I have to say, there was an episode from American Horror Story in Freak Show that I thought this woman is going to get an Emmy for this. I mean, it was so emotional. It was so amazing. I mean, it was the Pepper episode. And I still think, for me, it has turned into one of my favorite episodes of all time in TV history, just because that episode, you were so, not that you weren't in the other ones, but it showed so many levels to you. And when you started just getting emotional, I think about it and I get all verklempt.
It was love at first sight. Play with me. with me. Pepper!
And you'll really feel sorry for yourself. I need to get you out of this thing. I have to put you in the decontamination shower. What you did, that's one of the worst ever things I've heard. Maybe in my whole life. Made me throw up. Actually, throw up. Baby.
Well, I think, I mean, thank you, but it's a lot of it's the writing. They really gave me a story. Because up until then, let's face it, I mean, I wasn't background, but I was, for the most part, I was there. I was one of the freaks. Like I was, kind of again, when I say human prop, it makes it sort of belittles my role in the show. But for the most part, I was there to deliver the fat lady food and play with string in the background. Like that's
Right.
that was part of it.
Well,
I was,
and it does show there are no small parts in a
right.
show because you never know when it's going to go. But I mean, to me, you were never,
Well, thank you. I did always wonder, like, gee whiz, they've gone to all this trouble to bring this character back. It's kind of breaking all the rules as far as, we hadn't seen a character return before. And, and what does this mean for Emmy contention, whatnot? Because let's face it, they were in the limited series category. They're not anymore. Now it's a drama, blah, blah, blah. So I always felt like, it seems to me they wouldn't go to all this trouble to break all the rules, their own rules no less, to have me back, only to be singing and dancing in the deep background. So I did feel like they were going to justify my being there at some point, but it took it. That was episode 10 when that storyline finally came around. So, they made me work for it. That's for sure.
right.
But I think, to your point, let's face it, like pepper is, you must use pepper quite sparingly, or you don't have to, but, not that listen, I'm no culinary genius by a long shot, but I do know that a little bit of pepper goes a very long way. To there you go. What I mean is, they were very, if you watch the show kind of critically, you'll see that they intersperse her in these very like strategic places.
Yeah.
Prior to that 10th episode, mostly because she is such a like kind of like the shock factor. They'll cut to her these like, and it was almost like they would like use her editorially as kind of a punctuation mark. Whereas finally, for that last episode, you're absolutely right. They really kind of let her breathe, and she wasn't just a quick cut to bam, but rather what am I trying to say?
Fleshed out.
Yeah, we really got to see her. She wasn't a supporting player anymore. She was in the spotlight.
And it showed how such a loving human being she was.
Yes.
Not that it didn't before, but it really, you can identify with her. You can identify with the pain and the ups and downs that she
Well, I think that's what's so genius about so many of Ryan Murphy's characters is they are never what they seem.
Yeah.
They're all multifaceted, just like we are. You know, no one's all good or all bad. I mean, you know, you look at the administration and you think maybe that's not true, but the fact is, like, we all have, you know, no one's pure evil, no one's pure good. You know, you look at Pepper, and if all you get is the artifice or the you know, then you might, meaning people were initially scared of her, or initially, you know, had all these misconceptions. Oh, she killed her, murdered her sister's babies, cut the ears off, whatever.
Right.
It wasn't true. None of it was true. It wasn't until we actually got that episode to really kind of see her backstory that we could actually understand what else was in there.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. Naomi,
Yes.
what is your joy?
Oh. Well, I mean, I don't want to be cliche like actor and be like acting. But I really, I think disappearing into others.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think uh I think being, yeah, I think I like to be someone I'm not.
Right.
I like to get dressed in the morning, and something I haven't done in three months, but you know, decide like, who am I gonna be?
Yeah.
And you know, and decide like, am I boss Naomi in a power suit, or am I, you know, rock and roll Naomi with black leather? I think I enjoy like playing a role. But by that same token, I like, you know, I like stories. I like, I find myself in life, often if I'm confronted with a path of like, oh, should I go, you know, the easy way that is probably going to work out for the best, or this other way that might end totally disastrously. I don't recommend it, but I will choose the left, because I want to see how that story ends.
Yeah.
I love an adventure, and I like to have a story for the cocktail party.
Right.
And that it's, at the end of the day, it's been to my detriment. I mean, let's face it, I'm, you know, single probably because of it. You know, I could have probably gotten married and had 2.5 and a half kids and golden retriever with a white picket fence and lived happily ever after a long time ago.
Yeah.
But ultimately I chose this slightly more convoluted detour that took me on a whole lot of madcap adventures, and I have no regrets for it. So
And you're living a happy life as an artist.
Yes. I think, you know, let's face it, that was not my path. My path was this slightly more circuitous, if not totally dead end detour. But
Well,
no,
I wouldn't say
think
dead.
I just mean, yeah, no, let's face it, happiness is not necessarily what society has,
Right.
you know, decided for it.
And thank you for saying that, because, you know, being in quarantine, I'm here alone in my one bedroom apartment, and I'm going, you know, luckily I have a bunch of these lovely cuttables. You know? This I got from D. Wallace.
Oh, that's so nice.
Isn't it great? I love it.
I've been to your one bedroom apartment, and it's lovely. So
thank you.
yes.
Well, I got rid of 40 of the boxes, but we won't go into that. So it's a little more.
About the hot tub? Is it still open during? COVID?
Well, it was closed for about a month, and then they reopened the roof, but the hot tub is a cold tub.
Oh.
So it's not open yet, but
Well, it's getting to be hot outside, so maybe you'll appreciate that cold tub soon.
listen, when quarantine is over, we're gonna have some wine, cheese, and a hot tub again.
Yes, I'm all for all of the above.
Oh my God. So you were talking about how you love to get into different characters,
Yeah.
like Samantha Crow.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is another thing of what Ryan Murphy has been doing with this show about, changing, like you get several characters on these shows. So I love that.
So it's an interesting story about that, which, a lot of people don't ask about her. So I'll tell you.
Yeah.
First off, I knew I was coming back early, like maybe March, and we didn't, they don't start shooting till like July.
Yeah.
And yet I didn't know I didn't know even what the season was, never mind the character. So, I was watching, the trades and Facebook and everything else, just like any fan.
Yeah.
And, was excited to hear about Apocalypse, but even then, like, who knows, that could be anything, right?
Yeah.
But so it wasn't until, I want to say, I knew we were, like, meaning the show, was starting in July, but I didn't know when I would come around. I think they didn't actually bring me in until like September, which meant I had all of July, August, and September to kind of stew, like, when am I going to work? We all know how long 3 months feels.
Yeah.
Especially when you're waiting for a phone call to work. So, waiting. Finally got the call, and you're working in a couple days. The role is, and it had a different name, and they gave me just the pages that I was in. Unlike Freak Show, they would give me the entire scripts, which was helpful.
Yeah.
Whereas this was just like, it was just my lines. So I was, again, working with very limited information. And again, the show wasn't even on yet, so I couldn't even watch. I didn't know anything. But you work with what you got. I Googled the name, and it turns out this character, not Samantha Crow, but rather this other name, was a famous Satanist in history. She was a real live, like, socialite from New York City who was married into the Satanic Church. And anyway, it was a really interesting. And I again, as the consummate sort of character actress, I'm thinking, ooh, who is she? Like, this is somebody I can really delve into.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, there was no real footage of her. So I wasn't able to really, I wasn't mimicking anyone. It wasn't like Schlitzie with Pepper. But I could imagine, socialite. Okay, so maybe she holds herself a certain way or has a certain air about her, which I sort of took on. But then it wasn't until the day before, when I was in my fitting, that I asked, I was asking the costumers, like, certain character information, and they said, oh, no, you're not her anymore. As it turns out, since she was a real live person in history, like, if you were her, we'd have to fit you for prosthetics, and like, you're much too young to be her. Like, she would be 80 years old by now. So you're not her, you're this other person, Samantha Crow. Okay. And I was like, Samantha Crow, who's that? Like, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
So as it turns out, I mean, it was good news and bad news. The bad news is I wasn't whoever I thought I was.
Right.
And of course, now I had less than 24 hours to figure out who I was. The good news is I could be whoever I wanted at this point. There was no specifications. So I think in my mind, there was no limit, and I was no longer trying to be this person, whoever that was.
Right.
I it was open-ended, and I did whatever I wanted, which I ultimately, I don't know if you got this, but I kind of used that old lady from Poltergeist as my muse.
Oh,
So do you remember her?
yes.
Look to the light, Carol Ann. So that's what I was kind of going with, which it's very subtle, especially because I don't look like her, and my role was quite small, and not only small in the size of it, but as a character, unlike Pepper, who's quite a over the top character.
Right.
The Samantha Crow is much more subtle, looks like me for that. Anyway, but that's kind of what I had going on underneath.
I love it.
For what it's worth. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to know that there's, even with these small roles, there's a lot more to it.
There's a history.
Sure.
I mean, one line. I mean, I had one line in Meet the Fockers, and I wrote the day he was born to that day.
Well, let's face it, your one line in the Fockers, what's his name? What was his character's name?
Dom Focker.
Dom? Of course it was. But listen, Dom has a whole life, right? Dom came from somewhere. He was born on a day, and he grew up in a family, in the Fokker family, and he went to school, and maybe he got married, had a few kids. Like, he had a life independent of his one line.
Exactly.
Right? It may be that in this particular, film, we only see one line of his, but maybe in another sequel, it's Dom's story.
I know. Dom Focker.
Yeah, Dom Focker. I don't know why we haven't seen this as a sequel. It sounds amazing.
I think it's great. And I laughed so hard, too, when you said that, because that's exactly what De Niro said after I said, "Hi, I'm Dom Focker." And he said, "Of course you are."
I love that. That's so funny. Well, but but I think, again, it's a good lesson to actors that just because all you say is, want fries with that, or scalpel doctor, that give it. What is that waitress doing before, or what is she doing after? What is she? What's her deal?
What did she just have to eat? Is she constipated?
Right.
What?
Right.
Did she have a date last night?
Totally. All of that is going to influence how she says her one line.
Yeah. I have all these amazing, wonderful questions. And I know we only have a certain amount of time, but you create your own one-woman solo shows.
Yeah.
Short films. I mean, you write, you produce, you star in. I mean, how important do you think that is for actors to do?